Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for another video from the Animal Edit. Today is day 8 from SSSVEDA. The topic of my video today is actually a review of the new movie An Inconvenient Sequel, which came out recently from Al Gore. If you remember An Inconvenient Truth, this is the sequel to that movie. So before I dive into that, I just want to ask if you are interested in animals and helping them and finding out ways of implementing change in your life to help animals. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be exploring lots of different topics and coming up with practical tips, and I would love to share that with you. So hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified when I put out a new video. So today's topic, as I said, is a review of An Inconvenient Sequel. Whether you can believe it or not, An Inconvenient Truth came out 11 years ago in 2006. So a lot has happened in the world since An Inconvenient Truth, and I think it shocked a lot of people as well, and it was quite a controversial documentary, and there were a lot of people who disagreed with it. So Al Gore has done a follow-up to basically update the world on what's happened since An Inconvenient Truth, the progress that has been made and what's happening in the climate since then. It also looks a lot at what Al Gore has been up to in the last 11 years since the first movie. As an Australian, I haven't heard anything about Al Gore for quite a while. But watching this movie, it's very obvious that he is dedicating his life to this cause, and he's been incredibly busy since the original movie came out with activism and educational programs and helping people who are interested in contributing positively towards the climate change issue, helping them to develop skills and leadership qualities and bring them back to their communities. So it's a good overview of what has happened with Al Gore since the last movie. Another really big part of the movie is the Paris Climate Change Conference that happened in 2015. Al Gore was a big part of that, but obviously all the world leaders, major world leaders, came together at the end of 2015 to talk about climate change and come to an agreement on what every country will do and what the benchmark is and what the goal is and a time frame. And so what happened at the climate change conference in Paris and what was going on behind the scenes is also a big part of this movie, which is really interesting because I think, we might hear stories or see in the media what happened, but to see actual footage and behind the scenes work that's going on was actually a really interesting part of the movie for me. So it talks about how Al Gore was involved in the conference and then also what's happened politically since then. So the Paris conference was happening at the end of 2015, and as we know, since then, Donald Trump has been elected president to the United States and has been quite forceful in saying that he's going to undo, or he is undoing, the commitments that the US made at the Paris conference. The movie takes a really good look at what's happening with climate around the world and what's literally happening with weather and patterns and storms and glaciers and the oceans. And so it's a good, summary of the impacts of climate that we're facing currently, not only on the world itself, but on the human populations, as well as the challenges that countries are facing, particularly developing countries where they need access to cost-effective energy supplies. And in a lot of cases, that's not renewable energy. So it's educational from that viewpoint, and there's a lot more to it, obviously, and this is only like a 1 hour, 40-minute documentary. But it's a good summary, I felt, of what's happening with climate and what the impacts are on humans around the world. In terms of my review and how I felt, what I thought was good and bad about the movie, going into the movie, I actually said to my husband, I really hope that this movie is hopeful, that there's some sort of optimism, and it's not just about the negatives, because there is a lot of negative. And in summary, I did come away feeling like there was some optimism, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and everyone has their own role to play. So I've already mentioned a couple of the good points. I think it's a really good overview of what's happening with climate. It's a really good overview of what Al Gore has been doing since the last movie. His personal struggles as well. You know, he talks about going into despair over the years as well, because he's gotten to a point a couple of times where he feels like it's almost becoming hopeless, but then he regathers himself and keeps going, and that's what everyone kind of has to do. So it's a nice personal insight into his world. And also, I guess a couple of negatives for me. One thing that actually I didn't notice, but my husband noticed, was that one thing that wasn't discussed was specifically CO2 emissions, which I think was one of the highlights in the original. I wouldn't let that deter you from seeing it though. The other thing I found was that there wasn't a lot of specific information about what individuals can do on an everyday basis. And for me, that's a really important point. And there's certainly a campaign around the movie, and you can find out more and join up to challenges and be more informed about what you can do. The main message that I took from that was it's about using your choice and your voice to make the people in power understand if it's important to you and what you feel about it, then you have to speak up. And so it's not so much about changing your light bulbs and using solar power. It's about affecting democracy and using the political tools that are available to us to make our voices heard and affect leadership and their decisions. One final thing that I found that I would probably put in the negative bucket is climate. To me is something that I feel personally about, because I feel very connected to our earth and to the people around the world, and this is our home, and so I feel personally about that. And so at the end of the movie, there is it's quite a climax in it, and there's a speech from Al Gore which is very passionate and motivating, and to be honest, it made me cry. I don't think it would make everyone cry. That's just something that's really sort of sensitive for me. But it was right at the end of the movie, and then the credits started to roll and the lights came on. And yeah, it was one of those moments where it would have been nice to have a little bit of time to recompose myself. At the same time, I felt like I didn't really care about showing that kind of emotion in public. It sort of sends a message that this is a personal issue and people can care this deeply about it to show that level of emotion in public. So I put that into the negative bucket, but at the same time, it wasn't really that big a deal, and it wouldn't put me off seeing the movie again. In fact, I think I'd like to watch it at least one more time. So overall for this movie, I think it is certainly worth watching for anybody, whether or not you agree climate change is a priority and is an issue. I think it's worth watching and understanding this side of the argument and what's happening around the world. For me, as I walked out, it certainly made me want to take immediate action my everyday life and think about what I can do immediately. And it also made me think about the animal edit and how it's relevant to the animal edit and what kinds of things I can do with this platform to speak to people about it, open up the discussion, and really come up with practical things that everybody can do day to day, because I think that's a huge part. I think we all need to know what we can do every day to do our part if it's something that we feel strongly about. I hope this was helpful. I hope that it makes you want to see An Inconvenient Sequel. I haven't really done movie reviews before, so I'm sorry if it wasn't great, but at least you get my personal opinion and my take on the movie. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you with another video again really soon. And if you have any topics that you would like me to cover, please let me know. and drop a comment below, especially if you're doing SSSVEDA, so I can come over and check out your channel.